Welcome to the InHer Circle podcast with MsHoliness, bringing you a dose of inspiration from the ground to greatness, starting now.
Welcome, people of purpose. This is the InHer Circle podcast, episode 4, entitled It Was All a Dream. I am MsHoliness, and I am so happy that you decided to tune in with me for a dose of inspiration. But before we get started, let's do a recap of last week's episode. So in last week's episode, we talked about building it better. Yes, build it better. So I hope that you people of purpose were inspired to begin to build the dream in a more excellent way. Yes, build it better in this season, that it might not look like anything that you built in times past, but that rather it would surpass everything that you've ever done where your dreams are concerned. So for today's episode, we have a featured guest by the name of Diana Ivelis. So, hey, Diana, welcome. How are you on this fine day?
Hi, I'm good. I'm feeling amazing today.
That's good. That's good to hear. I'm so happy to hear that you're feeling amazing. So I know that you're located in Cali, right, in California. So you went all the way to California in pursuit of the dream. Before we talk about that, we would essentially like to know, who is Diana Ivelis?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm a mother to 3 kids. They're all in the entertainment industry in one way or the other.
Okay.
I'm a wife to a retired police sergeant and new actor recently over the past year. Yeah. My background was actually in cosmetology. I was in cosmetology for oh my goodness, I want to say maybe 12, 13 years before I decided to let it go to support my kids in the industry. So I even had a beauty salon, closed it all down. Yeah.
Wow. So I noted that you said that your kids were all in industry and that your husband is too. But in regards to your kids with the momager role, what exactly is a momager and what all goes into that?
Parents are managers, period. It doesn't matter if you actually have a manager on your kid's team. You're going to be the ultimate manager because somebody has to be somebody has to oversee everyone and make sure that everything is being done because the kid can't do it themselves. So yeah, I'm momager.
Momager, I like that.
At the basic level, if you have a kid that's in the industry, you have to just make sure that everything is in place as far as, there's permits, that they have to have. There's headshots that they have to have. You have to make sure those things are updated. You have to communicate with the agent, make sure that the auditions are turned in on time. You're responsible for hiring other people for the team, the manager per se. There's an entertainment lawyer that's needed. If there is PR person that's needed, you're the one that's going to be responsible for doing all of that. So it's basically managing the child's career, making sure that everything gets done.
I heard you mention manager. So is there another manager aside from you who actually helps to manage your kid's career?
But I do think that managers are essential, especially if your child has a lot going on. They would make sure that everything runs smoothly, and they'll communicate with the agent. So they're like the liaison between you and the agent, and they'll pitch them, and the opportunities are doubled. Now you have someone that's making sure that everything is getting done. And also, if you're new to the industry, the manager can help you understand what needs to be done, to get your child started in the right way. So managers are good to have, but the way we started is just, it hasn't been needed just yet. So
now let's talk about this whole relocation. You actually relocated and went across country in pursuit of the dream. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, that was a crazy one. So a lot of people think that we relocated here for, my son's acting, and that was definitely not the case. We actually relocated here because my daughter, who was the one who started, saying that she wanted to act and everything, she decided that she actually enjoyed the behind the scenes more than being in front of the camera. So at 14 years old, she started her own business and she started making films. And yeah, so at 15, she actually was able to raise almost $13,000. She had a short film that she had created the year before, and she was trying to make it a full-length feature film. and she did it. So she shot it. I mean, we casted it. She shot it. She edited it. We released it. She almost sold out a theater of like 400 people.
Wow, 400 people. Are you kidding me? That is so impressive. Yes, I love it. Now that's what you call ambition.
And there was a company out here in LA that was interested in representing her. So they wanted to fly us out to come and meet them. And when I had the conversation with my husband, I kind of like concocted this plan because at that time he was injured. He was a police officer. He was injured. And I was like, yeah, so you know that whole trip that me and I have to do to, I'm like, why don't we just kind of stay out there, me and her, for like a few weeks, maybe a month, meet some people, maybe do a project. And he's like, looked at me like, what? Huh? Like, he's military, he's sergeant. He's like, you want to go where without me for how long? No, right?
Girl, I can only imagine his response to his surprise when you said you wanted to go to the West Coast for a space of weeks by yourself, just you and your daughter. He probably was like, huh? Come again?
Right. And then in the same conversation, like he literally teared up. We got emotional and he was like, you guys should just move there. And I was like, what? Move? Like, he's like, yeah, just move there. Like, and I'll take care of everything. He's like, you guys go, I'll sell the house. I'll move in with my sister. And I'll just, as long as possible, I'll try to support you guys staying out there. And when we first moved here, we did it it was like a month.
Girl, just 1 month. That is such a short period of time. That's a lot of pressure.
It was like we made that decision that night and then we just started making plans and we hadn't even sold our home or anything yet. And we just literally packed up our car, our SUV. We got in and just drove across the country.
So you mean to tell me that you guys literally in a blink of an eye, so 1 month is not a long time, so literally in a blink of an eye, you just packed up your SUV and just was out, headed west, headed towards California, where dreams are made possible. I love it. I love it. Okay, continue on.
We actually have done that twice so far already. Yeah, because the second time was to actually drive our second car here once he was able to move here, because he couldn't come for like a year. He still had a job in Philly. Yeah, so my daughters and I went first. I eventually brought my son a few months later because he wasn't doing too good with the transition. Mm-hmm. And then my husband joined us like a year later. So yeah. And people, they're like, oh, that's why. I'm like, yeah, for a 15-year-old's dream of being a filmmaker is what led us here. So,
but everything worked out because essentially your daughter's dream catapulted everything else. So it was like a win-win. And with that being said, how does it feel to be living out the dream in real time?
Oh, what's crazy is that this wasn't our dream. Our dream wasn't to move to LA. Honestly, with the way that I grew up, I didn't even think it was possible to move to LA. Like that, I've never been to the West Coast. At that point, that summer, I had never even left the country or anything, been anywhere outside of like, Florida, Philly, New Jersey. So it wasn't possible to me. When we were doing it on the East Coast, we were doing it in New York. So that was more tangible. We can drive there in 2 hours. So right now I feel like I'm in a dream, and I know that other people say that this is their dream, and it feels really good. It feels really good to be here. The sun's always shining. The opportunities are endless, and there's just something about the air. I mean, though it's polluted because we got the worst air quality here. Right? I mean, there's something about the air that it just makes me want to get up every day and do something, towards progression, towards productivity, But yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place to be. It really is. Not to say that my hometown isn't, but it's different, especially for, the type of things that we have interest in. It's the place to be for those kind of things. So
yeah, you have to be productive. You have to be proactive in your productivity. And what you mean California got the worst air quality? That's one of my favorite places. I would have never guessed that they had terrible air quality.
We are voted worst air quality in the country, I think, something like that.
So that was a fun fact with the air quality. Okay. So essentially, what are the challenges with industry, if any, when it comes to performing the role of mom and manager?
Challenges. So, I mean, being a mom, period, there's going to be challenges in being a parent, period. So now you're mixing that up with, kids who are doing things that are just not normal, right? So really keeping a balance, because, they have these extraordinary abilities, they have these special talents, right? and this hardcore passion, but it's like you want to make sure that they're still able to be a kid and they're still having those experiences and still learning things. Like there's a lot of child actors that don't even know how to like ride a bike, you know what I mean, and things like that. So just keeping them grounded, keeping them busy in the things that they love to do, allowing them to have social experiences and things like that, is super important. And I feel like sometimes that could be challenging because, their schedule, and then they become friends. The people that they meet are other kids on set, other working kids. So now those kids have a busy schedule. So trying to schedule them together to do things is hard. Not being able to relate to your friends who are not in the industry because they don't understand that you can't do certain things, when they want to go and, run amok somewhere, throw some rocks, and you're like, well, I can't do that because somebody might recognize me. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just so many different things. It's like, just, keeping that balance, keeping the communication open, making sure that emotionally they're okay, because they're still going through all those different emotions and hormones that regular kids go through too, because they are regular kids. So yeah.
Perfectly get it. Yeah, their hormones are like raging and all over the place, and they want to get out, they want to enjoy, and they want to have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and essentially, you just want to make sure that they have a semi-normal childhood, or as normal as possible, so to speak.
Yeah, as much as possible. Yeah, as much as possible.
So now let's talk about some of the opportunities that you all have been able to land since you've been in California.
I mean, my children have had some amazing opportunities. My oldest, she's going on 20. So she's now running her second production company, and she has been able to work with some pretty amazing people. I mean, she's worked for celebrities, she's worked alongside celebrities. I mean, one of her biggest opportunities came when we had only been here, I want to say, well, the initial part of the opportunity happened the first day we were here. Like literally, we were here the next morning. She got an opportunity to intern on a set. That it was the first web series for Google.
Oh, wow, that's great. Google, I like it. I like it.
And she was going to intern on that set. And when she went to intern, it turned out that after they found out the things that she's able to do, they asked her to actually be the director of behind the scenes. So they wanted her to film the behind the scenes of this project. Now, the directors included Malik Yoba, Alan Maldonado, Twinkie Bird, who's a huge casting director out here. Okay. So like, this is like her first opportunity out here, really. And it went from that to them actually asking her to be one of the directors of the web series.
So she was chosen as one of the directors. I think that's great. That's great.
So she was actually hired and paid to direct 2 episodes of Google's first web series.
I love that.
So that was awesome right there for her,
And in terms of landing opportunities, what have you come across personally?
I mean, my biggest opportunity out here was being offered to be a talent agent. Okay. That was really an incredible opportunity. I mean, it stemmed off of a bad situation. Well, not bad because it had to happen, but basically what happened was a year into moving to LA, we were settled. We were like excited about everything that was happening and everything just felt good. And then my husband loses his job because he got injured and he was unable to go back to work. So he had to retire early. And therefore that caused him, since he was so young, because we're both in our 30s, he had to actually go through a process to get his pension. So we had to go through almost a year with no income here in LA.
Oh, wow. That had to have been a difficult time.
Our rent is like double our mortgage in Philly.
Okay.
We had a full 3-bedroom home in Philly. We had a 1-bedroom apartment here, and it was double the price of our home. And we had no income.
Girl, I know how that is to be out there on a limb pursuing purpose and your money gets funny. Okay.
Okay. So I was scared. So I talked to my son's agent about it, and she offered me to come on board as a talent agent. And I was so excited about that because I was already interested in the industry. I was already consulting with parents about, getting their children started. And I'm like, now I get to learn the other side, not just the momager side. I get to learn the talent agent side. I'm like, this is like everything. So that was definitely like the biggest opportunity for me.
Yeah, that was like a good deal. That was a blessing in disguise, actually. I'm glad that you had enough courage and strength to actually self-disclose what you were going through right there during that period of your life. If not, you have never came across the opportunity. So I'm glad that, everything panned out and worked itself out for you.
Yeah.
So we're just going to take a commercial break right now really quickly, and we'll be right back.
And now a word from our sponsors. Nerd Boy Rich Clothing for your hottest urban streetwear. MHW Creations, servicing all your literary needs. And Ace the Weave Doctor, hair extensions done right. For sponsorship opportunities, inquire within. And now back to the program.
So that was a word from our sponsors. And we are here speaking now with Diana Ivelis. Diana Ivelis, momager and author. And we're just going to jump right back into it. So Diana, not only are you a momager, but you are an author, in fact, okay? So tell us about your authorship. Tell us about your book.
Okay, so as far as the author situation, that just stemmed off of when we first moved here. I mean, even before we moved here, I would write notes about just our experiences, what we were going through, because it was such an up and down situation. The talent agent situation came first, where I was working in the adult department first, and I had the eagerness of learning, but it kind of faded really quickly because I wasn't fulfilling that passion that I had of helping parents navigate the industry. It was like adults, like, So eventually, with everything else I was doing, because I was still consulting with parents, I was becoming overwhelmed. Like I felt like it was more in the way at a certain point, because I'm like, what I really want to do is work with parents of actors, right? And now I gotta, deal with the adults. So eventually I kind of, drifted away from that. But then I was offered the opportunity to come back and work in the youth department. And that is when like a light bulb went off, like everything, I just felt like completely fulfilled at that point. Cause I'm like, oh, I get to work with parents of actors and I get to help kids find opportunities. Like this is everything that I wanted to do, because I also have a nonprofit where I try to help kids find opportunities in art. So I'm like, this is like everything.
So let's talk about that nonprofit for a moment.
Absolutely. So I have a nonprofit. It's called Starring You Inc. And I started it on the East Coast. And this is right before we moved here. So I finally had my launch, everything was going. And then we were like, oh, we're moving. So recently I actually registered it here in California so I could do some work here, but we still have recently been doing work in Philadelphia. But it's basically a nonprofit where we help children. Usually it's underprivileged or underrepresented children find opportunities in the arts. So it could be culinary, it could be, fashion, modeling, visual art, like anything, that has to do with the arts. And we basically try to find them things to keep them busy within their passion, because a lot of parents, they don't know the resources that are out there. They don't know what's available. And the first thing they say is, well, I don't have the time or I don't have the money. So I tried to help, them with things like that. And now my son started a scholarship fund. So now through the nonprofit and his business, he's actually giving out scholarships for children. He's been paying for kids to take acting classes.
That is great. That is great. So your kids are like the gifts that just keep on giving.
So yeah. But yeah, I felt like the talent agency stuff, that kind of combined it all for me. And I was learning so much and I was loving it. And then I realized at a certain point, I'm like, I can't really do what I want to do, because I was trying to help the parents get things together, but because my job was to find the opportunities, the time that I had for it started to limit more as I grew as a talent agent. So now the parents were so used to being able to have those conversations, but I couldn't really do that because I had to do the work in order for their kids to get opportunities. And, it was a great experience. And I promise you, I learned so much and I loved it. But where my passion really lies is helping parents navigate the entertainment industry, parents of aspiring actors. So that's when I knew I had to finally release this book that everybody's been telling me about. And I'm like, well, I have all of the information boxed up in my phone. Like, I might as well just do this. And I know it's going to help people. I'm like, between all of the experiences, all the ups and downs, even my past, how I grew up, my rough childhood, and even the mindset that I had to have to even take on something like this. Okay. I'm like, I feel like my story is not my story. Like, I had to go through all these things to help people through my experiences. Yeah.
For someone else. firm believer that the things that we go through, the experiences that we come across are not just for us, but they're for everyone else, essentially. I mean, you can grow from them and learn, but it's to teach someone else a lesson, a life lesson.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it prepares you for the next step in your own journey. Because I realized as I'm going through, I'm like, oh my goodness, I would have not been able to handle this situation if I didn't go through that situation. Like us being able to live in a 1-bedroom apartment as a 5-person family and a dog. It was 5 of us and a dog in a 1-bedroom apartment coming from a 3-bedroom home and a fully finished basement with 2 bathrooms. Like that could have been a shock for anybody, but for us, it wasn't. Because in order for us to even afford for our kids to go back and forth to New York on the East Coast in the past, for us to be able to afford to take them for trips and classes and all that stuff for them to be actors, we had to actually ask some family to move in with us for almost 2 years, where we all kind of paid the bills and paid the rent together for us to be able to afford to do that. So we had 10 people in that 3-bedroom home right before we actually moved out to LA. So that experience of all of us having to live in 1 bedroom anyway for 2 years, that prepared us for us living here in a 1-bedroom apartment. So, just things like that. I share in my book, along with all the tips and the tools and all the lessons that I learned along the way to help parents understand what to expect and what to do in certain situations. Yeah.
The book is entitled Raising a Child Star.
Yes.
Raising a Child Star. And that was an interesting point you just made where you said you had to bring people on board alongside you in your former house, because I'm a firm believer that teamwork makes the dream work. So tell us a little bit more about the book Raising a Child Star.
Yeah, I mean, the book is basically a guide. So it's a guide for parents, and it comes with a journal, if they choose to, add that on as well. And they work alongside of each other. So the book breaks everything down, and then the journal basically helps you track your child's career. So the book shows you how to, get an agent, where the journal pretty much shows you how to track the submissions and the read submissions and just things like that. So it's a guide, and it goes along with a bunch of other things that we have coming in the future, of course. But it's my baby. It took me a long time to gain the confidence to do it and to actually take the time to really put it all in there. It was very emotional. It's an emotional experience, a lot of crying, because I had to revisit some of the things that are hard to remember. And I had to process that along the way and make sure that I was really giving the full story, because a lot of people see us on Facebook, our family, and they're like, oh, you guys are doing all this amazing stuff, and I'm like, they don't know the real struggle that was behind all of that, because we don't always share that, because I don't want to be the downer of always sharing negative things, but I'm like, they need to hear it, and that's where it is. It's in the book. So
yes, there's a process, and unlike you, people seldom want to talk about the process. So I heard you mention that there were going to be some things in the works. So what major things do you have in the works where your career is concerned that we should be keeping an eye out for?
yeah, I mean, I already have an online program. It's called Affirm Your Star, and that's really like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like a step-by-step process of what you need to do to get your child started in the industry. But we have some new courses that are going to be stemming from that. They go more into depth about things like how to find your child a talent agent, and just the process of all the permits that you have to apply for, and just things like that. But we have a whole lot of information products that will be coming out, that will basically help parents really understand certain elements of the industry, on what to do for certain things, like how to find your child a talent agent and just things like that. So I'm super excited about that, because it's a lonely process. Sometimes, people can't relate in your family when you're doing this, and a lot of people have their own opinions, and finding your tribe of parents that will actually share information with you is very hard, because it's so competitive and everybody thinks that your child is their child's competition and everything like that. So I feel like this will really help people understand, and just our group, like Affirm Your Star on Facebook, will allow people to have a safe space where they know they can go and get the right information.
So yeah, getting the right information into people's hands in any industry is important. And to your point, it's sad that people actually do see people as competition in every industry, actually. And I wish that we had more people that would endeavor to kind of lend a helping hand and that each one would teach one so that we could all endeavor to go up higher together. But I like your methodology as much like mine. I believe in being a helper of other persons. So that essentially allows you, in my opinion, to go far in life because I believe that energy put out is energy put in. All right. So essentially, where would you like to see yourself career wise in 1 to 2 years? Where would you like to see yourself?
Oh my goodness. I see so many things, things that I never thought that would be possible for me. Like I really want to be more verbal and more visual with my content, not just actual online products, but I'd like to see myself speaking to large amount of parents and sharing information and guiding them and really just being a support system for them. And yeah, I mean, I just see myself not just helping one person at a time, but helping hundreds of parents at a time. Be able to be a good support system for their kids, through my experiences and my knowledge. So that's what I'm
Well, you
hoping.
appear to have what it takes to get that done as well and operate at that next level.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
so
you.
welcome. You've accomplished so much in this short length of time span. Like it hasn't been 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, but nevertheless, everything that you thought to do, you endeavored to do it and got it done. So I
Yeah.
believe that whatever you put your hand to do is going to happen. It's going to
Thank
happen
you.
for
I
you.
receive it.
Yes, you're welcome. For my next question, essentially, we're just coming out of the thick of the pandemic. So, how has the pandemic affected you, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, I was doing the talent agent thing during the pandemic, and it was tough. It was tough for a lot of people. As far as work wise, I mean, there were bookings that were I literally, and I'm not even exaggerating. I had a booking on the first day that LA got shut down.
Wow.
And the same day I got that booking, and it was my first booking for working with the youth. That was like back last year, 2020, something like March of 2020. And I was so excited. I'm like, oh, my twins. It was twins. So I had two bookings in one, and I'm like, oh. And then that same night they called and said they had to cancel because of what was happening. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And it just kept happening. We were getting bookings, but everything was so up in the air that as fast as we were getting them, they were getting canceled. And all the way until this January, I had a kid book a national commercial and it was canceled. It was really hard
Yeah.
for the clients more so because I just I knew just having children in the industry, knowing that you booked something and then it just being taken away from you when you've been waiting for that opportunity, it's really hard. And personally it was affecting us because my son's show was delayed, and through everything that was happening, we had to be extremely cautious, like not just regular how everyone just like, we got to, be careful, wear masks. Like we couldn't even be around family if we wanted to, because if any of us were to get it, then my son could not work. And they were planning on trying to get them back to production, but there was, things being passed where they basically said like, if you were exposed to anyone, you couldn't come back to work. And I didn't want to mess up his opportunity. So we literally, when I say shut down, and that was hard for a teenage, my daughter had just turned 18 years old. She couldn't go anywhere with her friends or anything. We were in the house, like totally for a year. We might have went outside and tried to go walk the park or visit the beach really quick and run back home. But literally the majority of that year, we were shut down in this house, not doing anything. And that was really hard for the
It had
kids.
to be hard, yeah. Minimal interaction. And you have to do what you have to do so that you can finish making your dreams come true, making stuff happen. And when you said your son's show, what show is he per se on?
He is a series regular on the show Bob Hart's Abishola on CBS.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they just got their third season. So this fall comes on Monday, CBS at 8:30 p.m. And he plays the son in that show.
Kudos. I like that. Yes,
Thank
many
you.
congrats to him and to you and your family as a whole. So I know that America is essentially opening back up and that we are getting back to some normalcy. I know that California opened back up its state on about June 15th. So how does it feel to be getting back to normal to a degree?
It feels good, but at the same time, we have to still be really careful because, like my husband got vaccinated and things like that, but like we still have that whole thing of we can't be exposed because we can't expose him. And so we still have to be really careful, but at least being able to go to our pool, the community pool, and my daughter be able to hang out with her friends. And slowly but surely we've been going to like restaurants and eating. So we've been just, it's been like a slow drip. We haven't really been hanging out with a lot of friends or family or anything like that, but it still feels good to go and breathe air, because I was actually afraid to even breathe the air outside.
Air.
Like I would go outside, and even if nobody was around, I was still like, is it in the air? Like I was so scared. So it just feels good to go outside and breathe the air. And I'm excited. I'm really excited to get back to what we consider normalcy. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like I'm actually excited about it too. Even though I'm a person who stays off away from people a lot and I'm in the house a lot, it felt good to just be outside without a mask and see other people likewise, and in turn getting back into the swing of things. All right, so where's the best place for everyone to reach you on social media and abroad?
Yes, you can reach me on Instagram. On Instagram, I'm Diana Wolf, DianaWolfe. And I'm also on Facebook, and that's where I'm most active. On there, I am Diana Ivelis. So it's my first name, Diana Ivelis, Ivelis, and the number one. And you can definitely DM me and ask me any questions that you have. We also have a Facebook group, Affirm Your Star. And in that group, we actually post resources and tips. And sometimes parents will ask questions, and we'll give them, answers and help guide them through whatever it is they're having trouble with or questions about. Yeah, so those are the best places.
All right, wonderful people of purpose. Well, that was the awesome and amazing Diana Ivelis. And we thank her today for joining us for episode 4 of the InHer Circle podcast. But before we close this episode out, we want to segue over into our hot button topic. Yeah. So, you guys, our hot button topic for today is Kevin Samuels. I'm sure all of you have a working knowledge of who Kevin Samuels is. If you don't, he's a dating and relationship coach on social media. His platform is predominantly YouTube. That's where I think he got his start. And he's famous for the line, "You're average at best." Essentially, he was consulting with a woman, and she was kind of asking him some dating and relationship questions. And he hit her off with the line, "You're average at best." And I found it hilarious at the time. But as time went on, I began to grow a disdain for Kevin Samuel and his brand as a result of the things that he was spewing out at women. It almost felt like he was a chauvinist who hated women. And then here recently, I could be found under Shekinah Joe's post on Instagram reading Kevin Samuels for filth, okay? The comments have since been deleted because I was a little bit in my feelings and it wasn't appropriate for social media. The core things, he had the audacity to call Shekinah Joe, which would it be? Okay, I'm talking the B word. And that was very distasteful in my opinion. So I went to bat with him about that. But despite the bad rap that Kevin Samuel has with me and so many other men and women, I think that he has officially redeemed himself. Yay! So, here recently, there's been a clip circulating on social media where he has the opinion that a man should pay for everything. Yes, you heard me, everything, when he is with a woman. Now, I'm not just talking about having a situationship or something like that. Even still, too, if you're in a situationship, I think that you should be providing some substance to a woman if you're a man, okay? That's just my opinion. And yes, I do 122% agree with Kevin Samuels. And I do believe that when a man and woman are in a serious situation where they're dating, engaged, or married, that a man should in fact be paying for everything, that a woman should not have to go into her pocket unless she chooses to when she's out with a man. This shouldn't be a prerequisite and it shouldn't be a requirement. A man should be just that, a provider, and a protector. That's what a man is essentially at the core of things. And y'all know that I'm kind of old-fashioned with my views, so I still believe that things should be lived to a degree the way that the Bible taught them when it comes to a man and a woman. Yes, a woman is to be a helpmeet, so there is some reciprocity on our ends when we are in these serious relationships. Even in situationships, if you're fond of the person that you're with, you may do little special things for them sometimes. So I do have that opinion too. But I do feel like the man should be providing the majority of the time. He should be covering things the majority of the time. So you guys weigh in. Like always, let me know what you think. And I look forward to hearing from you guys. Well, that concludes our talk for today. Thank you for joining me for episode 4 of the InHer Circle podcast, entitled It Was All a Dream. With questions and comments, text 484-393-2730. Keyword, the InHer Circle Live. To connect with the InHer Circle, follow us on Twitter at the InHer Circle _, on Instagram at the InHer Circle _podcast, and on Facebook at the InHer Circle podcast. For sponsorship opportunities, email us at inhercirclepodcast@gmail.com. Well, this is MsHoliness signing out. I look forward to you joining me for the next episode where I aspire to lift you higher.